Yo, welcome back, people. Lateness is greatness. You already know what time it is. We're 5 minutes or so. A little bit late, but you know, this is tradition now. You guys are getting onto me in the chat. Welcome to all of you, Polar Bear. I can see you all in there. Letice, you know, you're late. Come on now. I'm on time and you guys are early. Do you know what I mean? If you see the time, you know it's not starting until 5 minutes in. I'm joined by some very special guests. First of all, Olivia. First time on the channel. We've worked with each other before. How are you doing, man? It's a pleasure.
I'm really proud. I'm like honoured to be on here, Matisse. Yeah, of course, worked with you at Premier League Productions and yeah, so yeah, really excited.
Thank you. And it's the first time we're getting a presenter on here, actually, to my knowledge. I'm pretty sure. So that's perfect for me. Do you know what I mean? We're gonna get a different insight into the game. And Elizabeth, second time on, new YouTuber on the block. What are you saying? How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Matisse. Thanks so much for having me back. I'm really excited, especially to be here with Olivia. So
pleasure. I had to put you two together because obviously the Premier League, do you know what I mean? We've seen the partnership. We had you on the big screen and Olivia interview, and I was like, this is such a moment, man. Like history's being made.
Yeah. That was really good. How fun was that?
It was so much fun. I was so glad that you were the interviewer on that one. Because I was
weird for me because obviously we've done loads of podcasts together and just chatted together. So to actually do it at work was wicked. Really enjoyed it.
It was so nice to see Elizabeth on there because literally I know that's one of the things she wants to go into is presenting and all this. So I was so happy to see her on and I remember when I was on there for the first time as well. When you actually like grasp that countries that you've never been to or watching, it's like, yo, hold on a second, this is nuts.
You literally forget that like millions of people will be watching that, like in like obviously it's massive in like Canada or like America or like India, like all these massive places, and like you just forget because you don't, obviously you're on it, but because you don't see it go out or your family and friends can't necessarily watch it, you sort of forget. But like and you both got, like the guys at work said you guys were both amazing when you came on, and I'm not even just saying that, you both got such high praise from everyone, so they really like it.
It was really funny because my sister's boyfriend's friend is like a massive fan of the Premier League. Obviously, they're American. They live in the States. And he was like, does your girlfriend have a sister that's really into soccer? I got slated for saying soccer.
Oh my, that's a sin, you know. In some parts, that's a sin. They'll really get onto you if you say soccer. I've never even come out of my mouth.
He said soccer. I'm just quoting what he said. And oh, I saw her on the Premier League, and I was like, oh my God, that's insane, you know?
No, but honestly, I mean, do you know, it's very similar with YouTube. Like, you do it, you create this content, but you don't realize how many people are watching. I think if you think about it, it gets a bit nuts, to be honest, and it's maybe harder to do the job. I was going to get onto the Man United and Liverpool game briefly, but I don't know if you guys saw it. I'm not going to lie, it was a little bit of not a snooze fest, but I was a bit disappointed. It was hyped up to be this big thing, and then once again, obviously, we get a 0-0 draw. So
underwhelming, I think, is like, but it's been with so many big games this season. You think of the Manchester derby, not the one in the League Cup because that was actually quite good, but the one in the Premier League, where everyone was so hyped up for the big games that we've been involved in as well. Like, just big games this season just haven't lived up to any expectations. So I sort of, although I wanted a massive game between Liverpool and Man United, I wanted like a feisty, like what they used to be.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't going to be like that, and it was just boring until like the final 10 minutes when Man United sort of got back into it and actually looked like they wanted to attack. Apart from that.
Yeah. Then finally, like time was ticking, and like, oh right.
Now
okay.
I forgot for the last 80 minutes that I was meant to be doing something.
Elizabeth, did you catch the game as well?
Yeah, I had it. I was a little bit bored. Like, I was trying to watch it, but I was a little bit bored, to be quite honest. But I think a massive part of it was just like fans aren't in the stadiums, and like if you have the fans cheering on you, maybe you feel more inclined to play. But it just felt so drab. It wasn't exactly what I expected. 0-0. But
yeah. Well, not to fear. We have plenty of other topics to discuss, so we'll sweep that game under the rug. And like I said, it's good for the rest of the top six that, you know, it was a draw, I guess. You know, it keeps everyone else in contention in terms of trying to catch up to the two clubs near the top of the league. But First of all, we have to obviously look back at yesterday's game, Fulham versus Chelsea. My biggest word for that game is relief. Absolute relief. I felt the pressure going into that game in terms of it was a must win. You know, all the variables surrounding it in terms of Fulham playing in midweek. You know, they had a lot of COVID cases as well. Chelsea had a good 2 weeks and a really friendly against Morecambe in terms of a training session type of game, the way it felt going into it. There was so much pressure. I mean, what was your takeaway, Olivia, straight away from the game as a whole? How did you feel after watching it?
I have, like Elizabeth tweeted, I screamed so loudly. I didn't move, I didn't jump up, I just sat in my seat and screamed when Mason Mount scored. And like you said, like relief. I tweeted earlier that for me, I didn't actually, although I wanted Callum Hudson Odoi to start, and I think he was worthy of a start, where I wanted Billy Gilmour to start and thought he was worthy of a start, I do completely understand why Lampard went with experience in a game that was so big for him, not just for him, but for the team, for everyone. And that's why I wasn't bothered about who started. I wasn't bothered about the performance. I do not care. I just wanted to win. And a lot of people disagreed and was like, you can't think like that. I'm only thinking like that for this game, because we've got that win now. So I expect an improvement in performance and different personnel on the pitch against Leicester. But for this game, it was just, don't care how you win, don't care how you play, don't care if it comes in off your hip or your shin. I don't care. We just have to win. And I was getting nervous towards the last 5 minutes, and we're 1-0 up, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I was like pacing up and walking. I was out of the room, and it was ridiculous.
Really?
But it was. I went upstairs and just sat on the stairs, poking my head down the corner, whenever I had the ball.
That's how I'm whenever police catch the ball.
Yeah, but relief is the perfect word. I think it just, we needed that, and now I expect everything that people wanted to see against Fulham. I expect against Leicester. I didn't expect it against Fulham. Yeah, I think people expected different players to start and to actually see an improvement in performance, but I think in those games they're really hard. You've seen Liverpool struggle against Newcastle, West Brom, Fulham. Spurs drew against Fulham in the week. It's really, those games are sometimes really difficult, especially against 10 men. Everyone thinks, oh, well, it's gone in Chelsea's favour. It should be easier for them now. No, because they then sit with those 10 players behind the ball, whereas before they might have attacked a little bit.
Yeah,
whereas
first off they were attacking.
So hard to break down. And it does take patience. And we weren't ever going to win that game 4 or 5-0. I think that's really unrealistic to think like that. Those games, you only win by a goal. But to do it, I think, showed character. I think it really did in a game after coming off the back of no wins in 6. But yeah, for me, just relief, a win to win, and we move and we look to Leicester now.
and
I feel like I went on a bit of a rant there, but that's how I was.
No, that's the energy we want. That's the energy we want. Because that game was an emotional game. Do you know what I mean? I felt like a lot of people felt like if we didn't win that game, you know, we saw the Athletic report came straight out after the Premier League game before it against Man City, you know, almost as if they had typed it up a week in advance. And then as soon as the final whistle blow, send. Do you know what I mean? You know, when you send that email, you're just like, you got a project due and it's like midnight. That was Liam. Send. And it was just gone straight out and bang, it was just uploaded onto Twitter. So I felt like if we didn't win that game, maybe Athletic would have come out with another one. I mean, Elizabeth, how did you feel after the game as well?
Well, I agree totally with Olivia said. I thought that it was really a must-win game for Chelsea and for Frank Lampard, because a lot of people have been doubting the players and doubting the team. You can see that the team is so low on confidence. So I felt like a win was so necessary just to try to start momentum. So now you have 2 wins in a row, given one was against Morecambe, but still you have 2 wins to build off of. And, you know, it wasn't the best game of football ever. I was so nervous during the entire game. I felt like the first half Fulham actually did look like the better team. They had the better part of chances, and you know, props to Mason Mount, because him, Callum, Tammy, I thought they all looked really good, and the Cobham crew is bailing out.
Cobham crew, I have this name where I do keeping up with the Cobhams, because it's like keeping up with Kardashians. But I feel like Cobhams, do you know what I mean? I feel like Cobhams is more entertaining, it's more interesting. That's the show I'd produce in terms of that. And they're really bailing us out right now. You know, Mason Mount gets the goal. We speak about, I know Reece James couldn't play, but we speak about his importance to the team. Callum Hudson Odoi coming on, making a huge impact. Obviously, I felt he should have started 100%. But we have to speak about Mason Mount briefly because, again, this is a player that gets so much stick on social media. I think, obviously, in the ground, it wouldn't be the same. But maybe I could understand. I always felt like the stick was maybe pointed in the wrong direction. I felt like if you're going to place ownership of, one, how many games Mason plays, and two, what position he plays, you have to give that to Frank because he picks the team. Mason's not picking the team. He just plays wherever he's told. But since he's moved into the 8th position, I think this season he's improved really well. I don't know if people are holding on to a previous agenda or what, or maybe they just don't see it how I do. But I wasn't impressed with him on the wing at times, and I understand him at the 10. I didn't really like it. I always felt like he was an 8. But since he's moved into the 8 role, I think he's been brilliant. I think he created the most chances in the first half, 2 chances immediately into the second half. He's broken that record for most chances created, I think, in a game for Chelsea twice this season. Set pieces have been amazing, you know. We talk about his corner kicks and the way that he's been able to hit the centre-backs, and we've got some goals from there. And also in that right channel, I noticed that he did switch from left to right, and it mirrored Thiago Silva. So those two were the only ones really passing through the lines. He had some really good plays on the right-hand side where he would dribble, cut in, get into the penalty box and flash it across goal. Not the first time we've seen that. Definitely saw it last season away from home to Tottenham as well when he played in that right channel. What have you made, Olivia, of him? Because I feel like he is a player that is progressing, but maybe because he's got this stigma of being Lampard's son. But Lampard did come out and denounce that he's not his son, just if you guys didn't know that, Tony.
No.
Yeah.
I just think with May, like I can't be asked to waste my time talking to people that are still carrying on this agenda of that Mount isn't good enough. And we still saw it again yesterday. I'm over it. I don't want to talk about it. He's been one of our best players this season, if not our best. I like maybe not Thiago Silva or Zuma, you'd probably say, but he's been up there. He's bailed us out on multiple occasions. There's not just one. He works hard, consistent. He's the only one that's He looks like he's the only one that. I was going to swear, not going to swear.
You can swear. Say Premier League, do your thing.
Yeah. No, I can't understand, and I don't want to waste my time talking to anyone about it anymore because Lampard said he needs to score more goals. He does need to score more goals, and he knows he needs to if he's playing in that position, like his manager did. But I think he's been absolutely brilliant for us. And for me, he's one of the first names on the team sheet every single game because you know what you're going to get with him. We don't have a player that works as hard as him. Ever. He does not stop running. And like you said, he's played on the wing at times. I haven't liked him on the wing. It's not his fault he plays on the wing. It's not his position. That's never been his position. But during times where we know he's versatile and we wanted to fit other players in, like Lampard's done it, and that's fine. But you can't go at someone for starting on the wing and for not playing very well when that's not your position. But as a number 8, he's proper come into his own, and I think he's wicked, and he'll carry on starting games because he's brilliant. And in that midfield, you can argue that Kante needs a rest sometimes and stuff like that. But with Mount, I don't think he needs a rest. Like he seems Lampard he's Mr. Reliable. Lampard knows what he's going to get of him and can rely on him. And I absolutely love him. I think he's brilliant.
I mean, also something this season he's been improving is his long shots. I feel like he's been very unlucky. He's hit the post quite a few times. I was saying this to Alex. Yeah. I mean, how many times have we seen him hit the post or really good save from long range? I really do think at times he's been unlucky. I want to pose this question to you, Elizabeth, in the chat. Lee's putting this really good question. What are your thoughts on Rudiger being frozen out, but now back in the fold? He's really gone from being borderline sold in the summer to now in the starting 11 against Fulham. And obviously we know Tomori's probably going to leave in January, or you'd hope so because he's not getting any game time. That is like a massive swing, don't you think? It's a bit absurd, isn't it? It's a bit nuts.
Yeah, he has like so many lives. I feel like it's just like coming back.
9 lives type thing.
Yeah. I actually was really surprised by that because something that I didn't love last season was that the center back pairing kept changing. And with center backs, even if you're playing every couple of games, I feel that they're durable enough that they can play. You don't really need to rotate them unless maybe for like a cup game or something like that. And I like knowing the 2 center backs that we're going to have. So I was really surprised to see that Rudiger was on the team sheet because I was thinking of the main center back pairing being Thiago and Kurt Zouma. I never thought that Kurt Zouma was really like that bad. like enough to be dropped. I didn't think so. I thought he's been okay. The team as a whole hasn't been playing well, and the team as a whole has been losing games. The defense has been a little bit suspect as well, but I didn't think that was solely on Zuma. So I was really surprised to see Rudiger. Yeah,
and it's another good point. I mean, Thiago Silva is a player that has to be managed as well. Olivia, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I'm just saying it's going to be interesting who he plays against Leicester, because they play like they've got Jamie Vardy, who's caused us so many problems in the past. I thought Rudiger was brilliant against Fulham, and I'll be the first to put my hands up and say I haven't been so happy with his performances when he has played. I thought he's like a little bit of a liability at times, but I thought him next to Thiago. So I think it's just the presence of Thiago Silva that makes that person next to him feel more comfortable. Like I think, and it was the same with Zuma, like you said, Elizabeth. I don't think he had an awful performance and deserved to be dropped, but if Lampard wants to put someone else in, but I wonder whether I do think Thiago Silva will play against Leicester, because I think it's such a big game again, and they're a very good side. I think he will play, but it'll be interesting to see which one he pairs with him. Ideally, the quickest one, because with Jamie Vardy and going in behind, I think it's going to be a tough game. But I'm also interested to see not even just the defensive partnership, whether Reece James comes back in, but the rest of the team. Because this could be the game that we see all the players we wanted to see happen in play in the Fulham game. This might be the time that Lampard finally goes, okay, but is it also a risk? I don't know. I don't know.
With Vardy, I think Zuma's for me the quickest centre back, and also his recovery tackles are ridiculous. You know, that's one of. I remember him sliding in on Benteke last season.
Last ditch tackles, unreal. No one better. It was
wild. It was a wild tackle. So I would maybe expect him to start. I mean, a lot of people said maybe Zuma and Rudiger and maybe Thiago will get a rest, but for me, I don't think we can afford to rest Thiago against Leicester. I think Leicester are they're in the top 4.
Cup game. Rest Thiago for the FA Cup game.
Yeah, Luton Town is our next game, isn't it? So, and then I think we've even still got a favourable draw after that. So, I really wouldn't rest Thiago. I think Thiago is one of those players that he just elevates the centre back next to him. We spoke about it last season, where couldn't really decide who was the best centre back out of the 4. Couldn't really pick a partnership. Couldn't really see much leadership, organisation, communication. But Thiago just ticks all of those boxes, and whoever plays next to him just plays up a level. I think the little things that he does in the game, even his concentration, you know, reading play, reading loose balls, you know, clearances at near posts, everything's just on point, and obviously breaking the lines with the passing as well.
I think he also I think that the other center back, whoever it is, they know if they ever mess something up, Thiago kind of is able to cover for them as well, so they feel like a little bit more comfortable. Like, okay, like I have like some backup, and it's not just, you know, it's a reliance on each other, that you know that if you make a mistake, maybe you'll get bailed out. Not like you don't want to, you know, make a mistake, obviously, but just having that, like knowing that Thiago is there, I think makes a big difference mentally, probably as well for these players.
It's true. And do you know what will be interesting when Thiago eventually leaves? Because maybe this season and next season that might be the end of it. It will be interesting to see if any of these centre backs have got to the point where they can lead the back four themselves. That's what I'm going to be really interested to see. Monster CFC says, yo, Matt, any actual need on an excuse why Hudson Odoi can't start? I mean, this is one part of the management of Frank that really is mind-boggling for me, and I think it's extremely questionable. I mean, I know your take, Olivia, was more, you know, Fulham just get the win, and that really, when I was going into the game earlier in the week, that was my stance as well. But obviously, when I felt like when they went to 10 men, I did expect us to be a little bit better, but it really did take until Hudson Odoi came on. But nevertheless, Leicester City probably might even be more difficult because they are in the top 4. They do have a better playing squad. So I'm still a little bit worried.
I'm definitely worried, but the game will be more open. And I think that will suit someone. Listen, I think over the last, I love Hakim Ziyech. I think he's been brilliant. I think he will be brilliant. I think he'll be a star. But the last 2 performances for me have just, I'll just rest him. Like, you don't, he doesn't need to play every game. And I think Hudson Odoi, we all know it. We all think it. He deserves a start now. He's come on in the last 3 games and made a massive impact in all 3 of them. And like I said, against Fulham, I was okay with the players that started because I understood Lampard's logic. But if he doesn't start, him and Billy Gilmour, I think if both of them don't start, but this is the thing, Kante's back. And if Kante's back, given, I'm sort of ignoring that performance that he put in against whoever it was, because it was one. No, was it? No, the game before that. Who did we play? And it was like, I love Kante and he's world class. I'm just going to put all the compliments out there now because it was genuinely the worst I've ever seen him play in a Chelsea shirt.
Which game was it? Man City.
Yes, Man City. Oh my gosh, it wasn't Kante. That wasn't, and I'm putting that as like a one-off, random, because that's the only time I've ever seen him play like that. But you're asking me in a game where I want to see Billy Gilmour. I know he's unlucky not to have started against Fulham, but if you're asking me Billy Gilmour and N'Golo Kante against Leicester, I'm going N'Golo Kante all day long. And it's frustrating because I know how good he is and how good potential he's got, but I can't see Kante being rested after having a break against Leicester, which means I can't really see Billy Gilmour starting. Yeah,
for me, it was disappointing not to see Gilmour against Fulham, to be honest.
It was real. Like, don't get me wrong, it wasn't that I looked at the team sheet, I was a little bit disappointed, but I could also understand what Lampard was thinking, and that's why I didn't think too much into it. I didn't get too wound up by it.
There was outrage on 12.
So listen, I get team news because obviously through work I get team news early, and I took one look at that team and went, "Oh my god, Twitter is." And I was I stopped at the services and I was like, right, I'm just going to get on. I'm not even sitting here to wait for the reaction because I knew exactly what it was going to be like, and got back on the road so I couldn't see. And by the time I got home, it was like just the end of the first half. And I went back on there and I was like, oh, I haven't even missed it. Like, I can see it now. And obviously it wasn't a very good first half performance. So I was just like, oh.
Throughout the first half, Twitter was just like, I actually tweeted, I was like, you would have thought that we lost 3-0, that we were losing 3-0 by that outrage that there was.
I ignore it. I can't be asked it. But I can understand the frustration. Don't get me wrong. I really can. But I try and look at it in a way that, not as a manager because I'm not a manager, but I try and think like why Lampard would have made those decisions. And for this game only, I can understand why he did. For Leicester, I fully expect to see Callum Hudson Odoi start. And I would be so surprised and so disappointed if he doesn't.
I mean, I think the reason for the outrage as well is just because Lampard is in such a sticky situation at the moment, people really feel like at times he's not even giving himself the best opportunity to win the game. So Hudson Odoi has obviously been in form for quite a while now. And when Pulisic hasn't really been in form, in my opinion, he's been okay, but he hasn't been in form. Ziyech, again, hit and miss, not for me. I wouldn't say he's in form. If I really look at form for 5 games straight, I wouldn't say he's in form either. The fact that he's the most in form attacker, and he doesn't start in a game where you potentially, if you lose it, we don't know what's going to happen. I felt like it was a massive risk, and I know potentially a lot of people saying he has Leicester in mind, but not only is Hudson Odoi very, very young, and I think potentially has the ability to play back-to-back games anyway, but also I just think when you're going game to game in terms of you can't afford to lose because it's literally going that way. I thought it was a massive risk, and got away with one there. And I think credit to Hudson Odoi is that he's able to come off the bench and still make the impact, because for me, 15 minutes, it was touch and go whether he's going to have enough time to really do anything.
Yeah, I thought that the substitution was a little late, and I was like, what is he really going to have time to do in 15 minutes? But I do think that he probably did have the Leicester game in mind, because Hudson Odoi is more injury prone as a player. So they're probably trying to manage that as well. At least that's what I try to tell myself to feel better.
With Hudson Odoi, right? I think I'm finally starting to see why Bayern Munich wanted him. And that's a big shout, because I haven't ever been one of these people that has been like, oh my God, he's so good, he's going to be world class. I've never thought that. Be completely honest, I've never looked at his performances, given he hasn't been given a run of games. He hasn't. And I understand that. And that's probably why. How are you meant to, put a run of form together when you don't play? And I get that. But even just in games where he's started, or we've played against lesser teams in FA Cups over the years, I just haven't seen it. Whereas now, like I was disappointed with how the whole Bayern Munich thing came out and what happened, and I was a bit frustrated with him, and I'm sure he was frustrated with the club, and it was just unnecessary, I think. Yeah. But now I'm slowly, and he got off coming off the back of a really horrible injury as well. So I put all of that into perspective, but I think I'm finally starting to see why Bayern Munich wanted him. There's glimpses of a proper good player in there. You know, he's coming on and he's changing games, and that's really difficult to do. Like you said, Elizabeth, coming on with 10, 15 minutes to go and you're expected to change a game, it's hard. And as a 20-year-old kid or however old he is, you know, to do that, I think that shows real character in him. It shows his attitude. He's got the right attitude. And I think he'll be a massive player for this club. And hopefully now, it's just annoying because we've got, there's so many good, so many wingers. Well, not so many wingers, but when Hakim Ziyech is fit, he's a right winger. And it's just frustrating that, you've got players like that. But hopefully now we start to see, a run of games for him. I think he deserves it. I think you can't come on and be a game changer 3 games in a row and not get anything out of it. I think I'm finally starting to see that player in him. And I'm really happy because it's taken me a while. I wasn't one of those that sort of said it straight away. I never saw it, but now I am. And
that pass to sorry, Matisse. That pass to Werner, I think it was that he took the entire thing. I was
literally. I was like Werner's touch as well. I was like, oh,
I know.
He is an interesting one as well.
Yeah, that's
for a high line Leicester play. It's almost set up perfectly.
I wouldn't blame him. Can't play.
I know he can't, but it's almost like it's so frustrating that he missed that chance against Fulham, because had he scored that, I'm sure he would have 100% started against Leicester, because that is almost perfect. That Chelsea and Leicester would then have been playing the same way, with quick centre forwards. But I agree with you. I can't see how he starts, but it's frustrating because I do think that would be the perfect game for him,
Yeah, go for it, Elizabeth. I think
Tammy. I keep interrupting you. No, I was just going to say, when Timo missed that chance, it was something I felt really disappointed, because I thought that was a chance that he definitely would be scoring, and maybe at the beginning of the season he would have scored. And it just shows how low on confidence that he is right now, because he's a very good striker and he just seems that he's second guessing everything. And I was thinking, oh, that would have been such a perfect goal, because it would have been such a Timo goal to score, and he missed it. And now I don't see him getting the start. It's a tough situation, because you want to give players game time to try to get their confidence and get a goal. But if they're not playing well, then you can't really justify it.
I mean, at the end of the day, we need points. And regardless of what position he plays in, I personally don't think he's a lone striker or a left winger. People have had a lot of question marks over his position. I think he's a hybrid of the two. And I think he just needs to operate in different zones. But at the same time, in saying that, I also feel like when you're in behind a defense and you're 1v1, that is literally the whole scenario that you could have ever wished for if you're Timo Werner. That's your strengths. And the fact that he didn't put it away, and again, the first touch is not looking great.
That was so frustrating. That Callum Hudson Odoi ball, I was like, please just control it.
But it's happened with Mount, where Mount made a pass against Leeds, left-hand side, whipped it across, and Timo Werner again didn't put it in. So for me, it's not about position. He's just not taking the chances that he should be taking, and we can't afford to miss chances.
At the moment, I would fully agree. Sorry, Elizabeth. I fully agree, but I genuinely think he will go on to be a success. You look at Drogba's start for the club, and I'm not saying he's going to go on to do anything near what Drogba did, but you look at strikers' starts for a club, and you look at someone like Morata, who had a great start and then went on to be and never sort of. I looked at Morata and never thought that he was going to make it at Chelsea. I never looked at him and thought, give him time. Whereas Timo, his goal scoring record speaks for itself. And yes, it's taken with these circumstances as well. I think it's just taking a little bit longer, but I have absolutely no doubt, literally no doubt in my mind that he's going to come good and will start scoring goals for us. I've got no doubt.
Really? I think also his mentality, I think one thing as well, I think his mentality is just different to Morata. I think he's gonna keep getting himself into positions, and I think once the team gel, again, team with no pre-season, so I'm not expecting all 7 first team starters to be hitting form immediately. And I think for me, just give him time, just work with the boys on the training pitch, give it a few weeks, and hopefully in a couple of weeks he can come back into the team. Elizabeth, I want you to look at this question here, because we've got more Tomori comments, and I'm not surprised, because Tomori, I don't know if you've addressed it on your channel before, but Tomori's definitely been a big talking point as well recently. There's apparently a buy option on the deal, according to Fabrizio. Potentially, AC Milan are trying to get that, as Italian clubs usually do. They don't want to just develop our player and not get anything out of it. But at the same time, I don't think Chelsea want to outright lose Tomori. What's your take on the whole Tomori situation? Because it's been a long journey.
It's been a weird one. It's been so weird because he was playing almost every game. He was a starter last season. He got injured and then just never found his way back into the team. And then he had one or two like proper bad performances, didn't get back. And I know that like he broke lockdown apparently with Callum, and I think The Athletic was the one that made an article that he wasn't like training, like Lampard wanted him to train harder and he didn't see it like up to the same standard or something like that. But I was surprised because Lampard had said that, you know, he sees a future for Tomori and blah, blah, blah. And then there's this AC Milan, or is it AC Milan?
Yeah.
AC Milan deal for loan with option to buy. So I don't know what's broken down. There must have been something that broke down behind the scenes that we just don't know. That's all that I can presume. But it was really surprising to me. And I guess that, you know, Tomori is like 23-ish. So he needs game time. He wants to be playing week in, week out. And if he doesn't see himself being able to do that at Chelsea, then I don't really blame him for wanting to move on.
What's your take, Olivia? Because this comment here, I mean, I guess this is AC Milan, or they're trolling. They're saying, thank you for allowing him to come to us, and we'll take good care of him. I mean, Italy is an interesting one, especially AC Milan, because they are top of the league. Will he get the game time to get into the back four? Is it about game time, or is it about more training in Italy and learning the trade of the game? What do you think? How do you feel about it?
I'd like to think that if he was going to AC Milan, they weren't just going to put him on the bench, because otherwise what's the point? He might as well just stay on the bench at Chelsea and get familiar with the players that he's probably going to play with over the next few years. Like, I've seen enough over last season to know that he's going to be class. I was really surprised and shocked when he knew he was just benched and left out the team. Because he showed glimpses of like, I know he pocketed Mo Salah, and not a lot of players pocket Mo Salah. He had a really good game against him. So yeah, I'm happy for him. I think like he needed to go. He needs to go and play, and hopefully he does. But yeah, and hopefully he comes back. I do believe Lampard when he says that he has a future at Chelsea. I think he does. He's so young as well, like most of our players. But he's I think he'll learn a lot in Italy. I think it's a great league to go into. You know, Serie A is a great league. There's some really good teams in there at the moment. More than just, you know, Juve and like Napoli, like it was last year. You know, both Milan teams are really good again. So I think it'd be really good for him, and hopefully he comes back even better than you know what he is now that he's left.
Yeah, 100%, and it'll be interesting because I feel like there's a lot of players that are gonna like Elizabeth said. Tomori's 23. There's a lot of defining loans. That are coming up, you know, Loftus-Cheek, second half of the season, what can he do at Fulham? And produce at Sheffield United has been very up and down for him as well. If Tomori goes, you know, that's a big loan for him because, again, I think this is a club that, they're looking to introduce these young players through, but at the same time, as we saw over the summer, they're not going to be waiting around. You know, they are looking for top talents in Europe as well. So, you know, they have to be quick with it, you know. Eye Test Merchant says Pulisic has been poor the last couple of weeks, let's be real. I don't know, it's difficult with Pulisic because we know his high level in terms of what his standard is, you know. We know it's way higher than this. And for me, I just said personally on Twitter was that he's not in form. You know, whether he's been absolutely horrendous, I wouldn't say so, because I still see moments where he's, you know, getting around one or two players, he's affecting the game in terms of his dribbling, but then his head is down and maybe he's not making the right decision in the final third. His shooting isn't quite at it. So I don't know if he's been absolutely poor, but I would say he's definitely not on form, and he definitely doesn't have a outright, he doesn't have to start over Hudson Odoi at all at the moment. I think Hudson Odoi is in much better form.
I think the problem that we're seeing with Pulisic is that we're comparing him to like his post-restart level, which was just like incredible, and like everybody keeps comparing him to Hazard, but it was just Hazard-esque how he could change the game. He was getting so many goals, assists, he was drawing penalties, and he was just on top of the world, and we're expecting that player from him, and he's just not there right now, and it's frustrating because we know how great he can be. But for me, I think, you know, the team as a whole has been having issues with scoring recently, so I don't think that helps. But Pulisic just looks a little bit low on confidence, like the entire team. I think if you're playing and you're winning, then you probably have more confidence to take a shot or, you know, make a really good pass or whatever it is. And we're just seeing that Pulisic is overthinking everything. I think he's trying so hard to be the difference maker that he was, that it's just not coming off right. And, you know, sometimes I'm seeing him pass the ball when I know, like, if it were at the restart level, he would have taken a shot and probably would have gone in, you know. So it's just a weird one for me. But I think that Pulisic will definitely get back to his former self and his former levels. Like, he's incredible.
Nothing to worry about.
100%. It's a player that the only worry I worry about is the injuries. Apart from that, ability-wise, there's absolutely nothing to worry about there. iTest Merchant says Timo needs one-on-one training on his first touch as well. I'd completely agree. I think right now his confidence is shot. And Gio, we are selling 2 centre-backs this January. So he will get game time. He is perfect partner for Roman Gulli. I'm not trolling, I'm AC Mountain fan. Fantastic. Fantastic, bro. That's what I like to hear. I want to get onto a really important aspect that really, Olivia, you'd be perfect really to give us this insight, because obviously you've interviewed Frank and you get to go to the games as well to do the stuff for the Premier League and interview afterwards and all that kind of stuff. So you get to see the mannerisms of Frank, which is important going through this tricky spell for any manager, but in particular for him as well as a young manager. He's, you know, this is maybe the first time he's gone through this level of heat, I would say, as a manager. I don't think at Derby his job was ever at risk. I think they wanted to keep him, if anything, you know. So how have you first of all felt has he been different in the interviews? Is he still calm and collected? Because obviously we get to see what we see, but you're literally asking the question, so you get to see it.
I wouldn't say he seemed any like he's a little bit. I wouldn't say he's been any different. Not with like in press conferences anyway. I think it's always his body language is maybe always different when you're at games, and you can maybe see when it's not going so well. I haven't actually done a Chelsea game since obviously in this patch, so I haven't really seen. I can just go on what you're saying. But in press conferences, he's the same. He's not quite. Like when I ask questions, I don't get the answers that I hope for. Sometimes I think he's a little bit coy and a little bit like I asked him so many times about Werner playing through the middle, and he was just like the answer was like, yeah, you know, he can play in all 3 positions. That like he can play up front as well. And I was just like, but he's gonna play in the middle. I want to know. But he hasn't been not in press conferences anyway. I think it's more, you know, people just making noise in the background of like of trying to make out that his job's in like we know that this run isn't good enough at Chelsea. I think everyone knows that. And this, like you say, this is the first time he's ever been in a situation, and because he hasn't got experience on his side, he's got nothing to fall back on. Jamie Carragher spoke perfectly about it on Monday Night Football a couple of weeks ago, and he was just saying that sort of thing, that, you know, only been a manager for a year before he came to Chelsea means that when you go through a run like this, last season was very up and down. We had a couple of good games, couple of bad games, a good game, a bad game, scattered all around. We never went on a run. That we went on a really good run, to be fair, in last season, but, you know, we never had a really bad run where we had a really like long run of games without a win. So this is the first time he's gone through it, and as soon as it's happened, people are so quick to jump on this. Oh, he's going to get sacked, all this and that. The way I look at it is, yes, we know what Roman's like, and yes, I don't know whether he'll be slightly more, I don't know, let's say lenient because it's Frank Lampard. But why would you back the first manager you've backed in your tenure at Chelsea properly? You've given him the money he wants, you've given him the players he wants. Why would you give him less than half a season? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't think Lampard's worried about his job. I think he knows he was under pressure. But yesterday, did you see him trying not to smile at the final whistle? He had such like a little smirk on his face, and you could just tell the relief on his face to have got 3 points and to shut everyone up. Because have you heard one person talking about his job today?
Yeah,
no.
Yeah, true.
No one said a word about his job being like unsafe, or, you know, him might face in the sack, because everyone's forgotten about it now until the next game. And say it doesn't happen at Leicester, then we might see obviously a different Frank Lampard and the noise sort of come back up. But no, I haven't seen anything different from him, and I'm trying to ignore all that as well.
I think what's interesting as well is that it's a very much of a freak season. But one thing I've always worried about in terms of his status is we spent a lot of money, and obviously there's no gate receipts as well. So the club financially will really want Champions League football this season.
Yeah.
And even though they are backing him, I've never seen a manager finish outside the top 4 and there hasn't been some sort of repercussions. So I do worry about, you know, the form having to pick up. And if we do drift away from that top 4, will Roman remain as patient? Because I think even though he spent a lot of money on the players will still be the future regardless of who the manager is. I don't think they're just Frank Lampard players. I think they're players that really most progressive and attacking managers would want those type of players. You know, your Timo Werners, your Kai Havertz, your Hakim Ziyech, the young players that we've got. Most managers, I don't see most attacking managers that Chelsea would look at would turn their nose up at those type of players. So it's going to be interesting because for me, even Frank Lampard's own standards, I don't think finishing outside the top 4 would have been something that he came into the season even dreaming about, because he did speak about trying to challenge. And I think top 4 and hopefully try and win the FA Cup. I think that's something that really went against him. Unfortunately, we didn't win the FA Cup in the final against Arsenal. I think if we'd won that would have maybe taken some of the heat off as well, because we would have seen a trophy. And I think at least then when he comes in, I know he's brought through the youth and he's brought in and he's taken our squad up levels. You know, the improvement in the playing squad has been massive, but at the end of the day, trophies is what people talk about, isn't it? And if he wins the trophy, I think that will signify as a really key moment. Elizabeth, what's your take on the whole situation at the moment? Because obviously there's a lot of, you know, swirl on social media. You see it a lot on Twitter as well. How do you see his position at the moment?
Yeah, I think that as long as we don't drift too off of the top 4, that he'll be fine. And that, like Olivia said, it would be weird not to give him this season. And I think the goal is to get top 4. So as long as we're competing in that area, and we know that this season is really weird and everybody, nobody looks incredible or in a great run of form. City are starting to pick it up again. Liverpool don't look like the same team that they were last season either. You know, the top 4 is actually going to be, I think, even more difficult than last season, because there's just so many more teams that are competing for it, and teams that I would never have thought of, like Southampton, Aston Villa, Everton are in there. Leicester are always, you know, around there as well. But it's just so competitive this season. I think, like, as Chelsea fans, we are used to this instant gratification of, oh, if we don't get a trophy, then we're going to sack the manager. And for me personally, I've been wanting to, like, you know, to a degree, try to stay away from that, because then you're left with a lot of like systematic players from managers. You're left with Marcus Alonso, who was great under Antonio Conte, but just didn't fit a back 4 system. Jorginho as well under Sarri. So I think that for us, like for me at least, if I can see that Lampard is doing well, if we can get out of this rut, because that's what it is, and I do think that we're going to get out of this rut, and as long as we know that we're able to compete for top 4, then I would be okay. Obviously, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm nervous because it is looking really, really difficult for that top 4 spot. There's a lot of teams competing.
And it's true. And I think that's why Leicester, you know, Olivia said it earlier, we really need to go into that game. And hopefully we're going to see the strongest team, the strongest mentality, the strongest, ambition from the outset to go and win.
What is the strongest team? Tell me now what you think Chelsea's strongest team is going into this game.
I will. I think, you know, form has to definitely play a part, 100%. I'd go Mendy. I'd go Reece James if he's fit, because I think Azpilicueta has been. Yeah, I think Azpilicueta wasn't great last game. I think he is slowly declining, but I love him to pieces, and I hope he retires here still, because he still manages to churn out consistent performances over the course of the season. Chilwell left back. I'd bring back Zuma. We spoke about the pace of Vardy earlier. I think the recovery tackle is key next to Thiago Silva. I'd actually look at Gilmour Kante. It's an interesting one. I think if I would have wanted Gilmour to play Fulham, so I'm going to stick with Kante, but I am worried slightly about Kante's form. I think he hasn't been great for a few weeks now. And as you said, I'm hoping it's a blip, but when Kante plays, Havertz does seem to be a bit deeper. And I do want to play Havertz in that 8 role with Mason Mount. I want Havertz to get into the box for the crosses like we saw against Morecambe. I want Havertz to be, you know, the furthest number 8. I think Mount is very good deep. He switches to play. He connects to play very well. He takes his long shots. And I think Havertz's stature in the box and his height and his heading ability is very useful for a team that crosses so much. So I'd play those two. But I have to admit, if it's not looking good in that midfield and we can't get control of possession, I would not hesitate bringing Gilmour on. I know it's a risk, but I think whenever Gilmour plays, I do feel like, yes, defensively we might be weaker, but he does get on the ball. He does assert himself. He's very, very much looking to have the most touches, dictate play, pass through the lines. And then on the wing, for me, has to be, I go definitely Hudson Odoi. And then it's between Pulisic and Ziyech. I'd probably edge to Ziyech at the moment. I think Pulisic right now and Hudson Odoi, I think, you know, at least Ziyech brings something completely different to Hudson Odoi in the fact that he's gonna try that out ball. And then up front, I think I'd give it to Tammy. I think I'd give Tammy. Tammy hasn't really played many games. He hasn't started in a while, and he got a goal against Arsenal. And I think he does bring a lot to the game. I think he had a really good touch in that build-up play for Hudson Odoi, and then he made that crossfield ball to Werner. And I think his build-up plays improved. Yes, his heading ability can get better, but he does bring movement. And I think when Tammy plays, the team and the wingers do seem to play better. He does seem to create space. He can link up a bit. He's been improving. And yeah, I think he just deserves to go, to be honest. What about you guys? What would be your team?
I don't know.
Come on, you got.
Yeah. I was hoping you weren't going to revert that question back then. It was just
you gotta give me a team, 100%. Both of your teams.
I would say the same back four. I'd go Zouma next to Thiago Silva, but I think he's going to go with Rudiger.
Okay.
I think he's going to go with Rudiger, but I would personally have Zouma. I'd have Kante, Mount. See, I wouldn't play Kai Havertz.
Really? Why is that?
Do you know what's frustrating is that I sort of wanted him to start against Fulham because, like, you know, coming off the back of a good performance against Morecambe, and like I wanted him to build on that, and like he looked really threatening in that game. It all depends, doesn't it? If I just don't want to be overrun in that midfield, and like as good as Kante is, sometimes we do get overrun in midfield, and if Kante was at his best, like, and I could, you can really, what you're going to get. I mean, you sort of know what you're going to get. I'm hoping that Man City game was just a random one-off and that he was maybe a bit knackered. But can we afford to be playing? I really don't know. I think it's a toss-up between Kovacic and Havertz. It just depends on what. If Lampard wants to go attacking, he's going to go with Havertz. If Lampard's a little bit cautious, he's going to go with Kovacic. And then I think Hudson Odoi. I would only say Pulisic because he's a natural left winger, and I think like we've got a natural right winger and a natural left winger then, and I think sometimes that balance is a little bit better than playing maybe a Ziyech who wants to play on the right, on the left. I know he swaps sometimes and he does go out there, but I'd probably bring and I think Ziyech off the bench, gives you. He's not someone that I think. Just give him the ball and one ball into the box. It's not like he needs to get into the game before he can do anything. It's just one ball into the box can change everything. Yeah. But yeah, I'd go Hudson Odoi, Ziyech, and then I have absolutely no idea which striker I'd go with.
a lot of people are saying, why Tammy? I mean,
well, when Tammy's played, he's been good. Apart from that Spurs game where I would have gone with Giroud, and I think we probably would have won the game if we'd have had Giroud on the pitch. He played when he came on yesterday. He actually caused them problems. Scored against Arsenal. So, but then Giroud. It depends what game plan Lampard's going to go for. If you've got Reece James there, I would play Giroud because the balls into the box you're going to be getting, and there's no one I want on the end of those balls than Olivier Giroud. If you're not going to play that and you're going to play long balls, I want someone like Werner or Tammy running in behind, one of those two. So it just really depends. But it depends what game plan Lampard's going to go with. If for me, Giroud.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because obviously, 3 days apart.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like since he started versus Fulham, I was surprised if he starts again.
I just think it's such a waste to have Reece James's right foot because Tammy is good at other things, but he's not good at. He's not as good as Giroud. No one's as good as Giroud in the air, are they? Let's be honest. Not many strikers in the Premier League that are as good as Giroud in the air. So, yeah, I think you're right. As in, he's started against Fulham. He's probably not going to start against Leicester. And maybe we will go for it. It probably makes more sense to go for a quick running in behind Werner or Tammy, one of the two. He's probably going to go with Tammy just because Werner's low in confidence, and I get that. But yeah, I imagine that's probably what he'll do thinking about it. But I'll be happy with it. Do you know what I'd be happy with? As much as it's frustrating watching Werner, I'd be happy with Werner. I'd be happy with Giroud, and I'd be happy with Tammy. So I'm not I just really want to become good. Honestly, I'm just
no, I do as well. I get what your sentiment, because I think the thing is with these strikers, I don't think any of them are clear and above anyone in terms of they have to be first choice. Giroud, I love Giroud. I think he's a fantastic target man. I think he's not even just a player that you have to spam crosses in. If you get the ball fizzed into him, you can link up play. We've seen it at Arsenal. We've seen it at Chelsea with Hazard. Seen it with France. You can play some beautiful football with Giroud, but he doesn't have the mobility. We know that he doesn't have and we know it's very important sometimes to have a striker that can run into the channels and split a defense in that way. And he's never been a striker to play every single game, and he's going to score 30 Premier League goals. So he's clearly not perfect. Tammy, there's definitely areas to improve. You spoke about the heading ability, and just in general, he's just going to continue to polish up his game more and more. I think sometimes he can come off a bit clumsy, and then other times his build-up play can be very good, and it's very underrated, the flicks that he does do at times. And then Werner is just a player that is just shot on confidence. So you're playing maybe the least confident person, but on his game and utilised properly, we've seen what he did at Leipzig. Elizabeth, what would be your team?
Yeah, so I would go for the same back four. I would have Zuma in for Rudiger personally, and I would go for Conte, Mount, Havertz. I think I would do Callum, Ziyech, and Tammy, just because I do feel like you said, that Ziyech can bring something different, and he is going to spam you with crosses, and maybe they don't all come off, but it just takes one really good cross for it to come off. But something that we really need to watch out for is just not having so much space in the midfield, because our midfield, the players can just run through it, slice through it like butter. Honestly, sometimes we just have so much space, and a lot of the times Conte is left by himself. And I think one of the problems that I see with the 4-3-3, and I don't really have an answer for this, is that Kai Havertz is playing deeper than he usually does. And we saw in that Morecambe game that he actually looked a lot better, a little bit more centrally, in that 10, getting further into the box, which he's not really able to do as much. And I think that we could go kind of switching fluidly between a 4-3-3 and 4-2-3-1 with Mount dropping a little bit deeper. Like you said, Mount has a really great pass in him. He's able to switch the play. But then I also feel like Mason Mount, when he gets forward, we're seeing that he's capable of scoring goals. And he said the other day that he usually doesn't get into those areas because he's playing a little bit deeper. So it's really it's really a conundrum, and I don't have the answers. And I think that that's probably what Frank is facing as well. But for me, I think that we really need to make sure that if the midfield shifts up, the defense shifts up, because there's always way, way too much space in between the lines. And we're seeing that Conte can easily get isolated, and it just takes a pass to take out our midfield and maybe 2-on-2 with the center backs, especially with the fullbacks pressing so high up as well.
I think the one thing that splits it for me in terms of who should bomb forward more, Mason or Havertz, is that Havertz at Leverkusen was always a final third player. He played false nine, he's played right wing, and he's really had a lot of equal impact in all those positions, regardless of where he's played. He's very versatile, despite what the Premier League has seen so far. So I think in terms of, stature in the box and finishing, he's the player that I would prefer to have higher up. And I think Mason can play deeper because he's able to switch the play. Defensively, I think he's a little bit more comfortable in the deeper position since learning, last season on the wing, and he's learned a lot of the defensive side of the game, which maybe we didn't appreciate when we saw him out of position last season, but maybe we're starting to see it come through now. And also on top of that as well, I think when you have Chilwell, who's definitely going to bomb forward more than Reece, I think Reece can sometimes tuck in a bit better. Mount counteracts that, and obviously Reece tucking in counteracts Havertz. So for me, that balance just makes more sense. But I agree with you. Both of them at times, can go forward, which is why I always really just stick with the 4-3-3, because I think it allows them both to go forward, just maybe not at the same time. We got a good question here. We've already kind of addressed Tomori, but obviously, thank you for the super chat. We're going to read it out anyway. What do you think of Tomori leaving? Is it poor from Lampard to let him go? I mean, the thing is with Tomori is that last season he was taken out very abruptly for Rudiger, and I felt like it felt like a pre-thought that Rudiger was just out and out the better centre back. He's more experienced, he's got the leadership, and it was a team that was conceded a lot of set pieces. I wouldn't say Tomori's the best in the air aerially, height-wise and just aerial duels alone. He's not exactly the strongest in the squad. So potentially victim of circumstance there. But I was very disappointed because I felt like a partnership between him and Zuma was brewing quite nicely. And ever since then, he's just never been able to get back in the team. And this season, he almost went on loan to West Ham. I felt like he should have taken the loan, guys. Do you know what I mean? He didn't take it in the end, and now he's fifth choice. So
Rudiger was supposed to leave, so then he was thinking he would have more time at Chelsea, and then that deal fell apart as well. So it's just like super unlucky. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It's Victor. I'm not. This season, I'm less angry because I feel like it is a bit of a situation where it was quite clear that Chelsea were looking to loan him out, but then they didn't let him go to Everton because it wasn't sure what happened with Rudiger, and it just became very mixed up and confusing. But I think outgoings in general, in this climate, which is very difficult to organise, and the incomings, obviously, they got them done regardless. I mean, I want to get some final thoughts, 5 minutes left, really. Score predictions. We all love that game because, I mean, Olivia straight away is just like, no, we do. I've had this on the Premier League so many times, I go on there. Always like score prediction. I'm like, no. But I have to do it.
It's nervous to me that I'm like, why did I say that? Now people are going to hold me to that. And
I feel like I'm damned if I say we're going to win. I feel like I'm damned if I say we're going to lose. Because if I say we're going to win, people are going to go, oh, well, what have you based that on? We're rubbish. And then if I say we're going to lose, like, well, why aren't you backing it? Like, why aren't you backing us? I do, for the record, I will always back Chelsea. I think, like you said, Elizabeth, I think we'll get out of this rut. I think we will. But I would like to see a change in personnel. And I think if we see a change in personnel, we will see a change in performance. I'm hoping. And listen, we're more than capable of beating Leicester. We have to, we have to remember that. We have to go into this game knowing, yes, they're in good form. Yes, they're a good side. But if we play to the best we can, we really put in a performance. We've got players that can really hurt them. So would I take a draw?
No, surely not. We need that win, man. We need that.
I mean, no, don't get me wrong. We need a win, but if you're telling me, this is what I mean. I'm useless. I'm actually useless and stuff like this.
It's a tough game.
I'm very positive because I want us to win, and I feel like that result will have done so much for that squad and just everyone's mentality and everyone's like. I'm going to go. I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to be. I think they're going to score as well. I'm going to go 2-1.
You agree with the eye test merchant? He's gone 2-1, but he's ended it with fuck it, which means really he's just hitting an open.
2-1 Chelsea. 2-1 Chelsea. That's my score prediction.
Elizabeth, your score prediction, and also are you confident as well?
I'm not confident. I always people always say, "Oh, how can you not be confident going into games?" I'm like, well, the recent form does not make me very confident. Obviously, I back the team, I support them, but I'm nervous for this game. Like, I was nervous for Fulham. Of course, I'm nervous for Leicester. I think it's going to be a really, really difficult game. Leicester have been playing pretty well, but we did see that Fulham were able to get the win over Leicester, and we beat Fulham. So, right, that logic. Yeah.
I love that logic.
So, I think it's going to be really tight as well, but I'm going to go for 2-1 to Chelsea, like Olivia.
Okay, wow. I mean, that means we all agree, because I do also think we're going to concede, but my mentality with this game is we just have to win. I think with the run that we're on, previous to the Fulham game, I think we just now need to just go into every game and we just got to go in there and just win. And like you said, player quality-wise, we have it in us to do it. Brendan Rodgers is a very, very good coach, but sometimes he is there to be got at defensively as well. I feel like potentially, you can get chinks in the armour. And I think also the fact that Hudson Odoi, as much as I was very, very angry he didn't play against Fulham, I do expect him now to start against. It would be almost criminal now. Like I've said it, I said criminal already. It would like now. There's sentences like you've got to maybe do jail time. I'm
scared for Twitter if Hudson Odoi is on the bench. And I'll find out sooner. And I'm not saying a word. I'm going to look at it and just
drop me the message.
It is not passing. I'm turning my phone off and not even looking at it. It can't be asked. But hopefully, fingers crossed.
Send us like a secret signal. We can have like a secret emoji.
You could be one of those ones. Those guys that use the emojis, and you know what I mean. Just do that on your Twitter. Just little hints. Do you know what I mean? Be one of those. But I mean, if he doesn't start, potential jail time has to be done. I can't lie. It would be incredible if he doesn't start. It would be incredible. And I think if he does start, we have a bigger chance of winning. Definitely, because he's just in form. He's very confident, and the way that he's speaking in public at the moment in his recent quotes, he sounds like someone who's got a point to prove. You know, he really does, because it hasn't been the easiest ride for him at Chelsea. There's been a lot of, you know, drama with the transfer requests, a lot of incidents off the field. However, he is a player now who seems to be back fully fit. He's making an impact off the bench. And I think he just wants to prove to everyone he is the real deal. And like you said, there is a reason why Bayern Munich were after me, why they were looking to pay 80 million potentially on after a loan deal and all this kind of stuff. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited for the game, because how can you not be? Do you know what I mean? Chelsea, they're very up and down, but I'm just excited to see what we can do. I really am. I mean, I just pray that we get the win, because we need to catch up now. Everyone's saying it's a tight table. It's a tight table, but if you don't win your games, then who cares? Do you know what I mean?
Especially because Leicester are third or fourth or wherever they are now. They're definitely in the top four. So, you know, we can cut that gap to 3 points.
Exactly.
But then all of that chat about us not making top four stops, because then everything's still to play for. But 9 points, if they beat us and it's 9 points, then you already think you've got a mountain to climb with. I know there'll still be 17 games left. There's still a lot of football to play, still a lot of big games to come, but you don't want a 9-point gap at this point in the season.
No, I said personally, when I seen the fixtures, 4 fixtures before Tottenham, we played Tottenham February the 3rd. There was Fulham, there was Leicester, Wolves, and Burnley. Personally, I felt like 10 points minimum out of that needs to be taken before Tottenham. I'd love 12. Obviously, we'd love 12, but minimum 10. So this is one of those games that potentially can drop. If you drop points, you kind of expect it, but we need to just go for the win. Elizabeth, we've come to the end of the stream. Let them know where to find you, please, because I need this YouTube channel booming. Do you know what I mean? With the amount of editing that's being put in, the people need to find it.
It's taking me too many hours, Matisse. I'm tired. I work full time as well.
I'm not gonna lie, streaming is a lot easier. It's a lot easier.
Yeah, streaming. I'm gonna start streaming, so watch out for that, because it's a lot easier, and I'm tired of editing too much. But I have my own YouTube channel, Elizabeth Helenek, and you can also find me on Twitter, where I'm super active as Ellie_Helenek.
Fantastic. And like I said, guys, link in description. Type in Elizabeth Helenek into the YouTube search. It will come up, and you're going to see some different content, which is good. You know, you're not going to get your usual Chelsea videos. There's fantasy Premier League tips as well in there as well.
With fantasy, come to me.
Yeah, everyone plays that. You see that segue straight to Olivia. You see how easy it is. Olivia, let them know what you're up to at the moment and where they can find you as well.
I mean, I was saying earlier off stream that I have so much admiration for you guys that actually, you know, put so much work in and do YouTube and spend time editing, because I'm far too lazy for it. I think I'm just lucky, you know, I have a job that, you know, I don't have to do that, because I wouldn't be where you guys are if I didn't do my job. So you guys are amazing. You can find me at Olivia Buzaglo on Twitter. I'm usually just talking about Chelsea and football. So and of course on the Fantasy Premier League Twitter page, if you play the game, you can head over there and get some tips from me. I'm apparently an expert. Everyone was thinking
I've seen tweets go out where you guys have put someone in the team and they've immediately done bad. They're like, "Yep, so that's me."
Yes,
every single time, honestly.
You know, it works both ways. It works both ways. That if I transfer somebody out, I'll say, "Oh, by the way, I transferred this guy out, so make sure to triple captain him." Because
to put him in. Yeah.
That's literally how it goes. So that is that part of the tips in the videos?
No. It's part of the Twitter. The Twitter crew knows that, but
yeah. I was saying, you take out is automatically going to score. You know it. So
yeah. Love that. Well, guys, like I said, make sure you follow both the girls on the socials. They're doing incredible work. Olivia's doing some great presenting, and with Chelsea as well. Some great live commentary was going on. Are you still doing that with Jason and Zach, or is that stopped?
Yeah, no, they are still doing it, but I was told to sort of focus on Premier League stuff by people at there. So I'm just this season this season is just a Premier League, but I loved every second of it, and like it was literally a dream. I mean, everything I do is a dream come true, but that is a dream come true. So
yeah, 100%. I mean, I was on that channel one time, and I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was my birthday, so I cannot express just how excited it is to be on Chelsea's channel, even for a moment. It's just like, wow, we've done it. We've done nothing else. We've done that. People, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great live chat. Over 250 of you in here at times, and like I said, the Leicester game is on Tuesday, so very quickly, we're going on to that game. You know, there's no time to rest on our laurels with the Fulham game. I know a lot of you are not happy with the performance, but like I said, we don't even have time to even think about it because we have to move on very quickly and hope for a better performance. I'm going to have Alex and Sam as well on tomorrow. He's a Leicester fan. We're going to do more build up to the Leicester game, and then next thing you know, you're going to see another review, hopefully with a win. So people, I will see you tomorrow. I can't give you a time because I won't. Notifications go on. And if you missed the stream, it's because you didn't put the notifications on. It's cruel. It's a cruel world we live in, people. I will see you tomorrow in a bit.